Morning, everyone. May you all please take your seats. Welcome to today's side event or Action Hub session on financing circular economy roadmaps. My name is Bertrand Asamoah. I'm an associate partner with Dalberg Advisors. For those who are not familiar, Dalberg Advisors is a management consulting firm that focuses exclusively on the impact sector. Yes. And Dalberg works closely with a number of international institutions, such as the African Development Bank, as part of the support to the African Circular Economy Alliance. If you're not familiar with the Alliance is a collaboration of multi-country, it's basically a collaborative multi-country platform that was created in 2017 to foster the creation of enabling policy environments for the circular economy and sharing best practices on effective implementation of circular projects in Africa. The African Circular Economy Facility was founded last year, so it's very recent. And it was founded as a financing facility to provide financial support to implement circular initiatives on the continent. So why are we here today? So as some of you might be aware, circular economy is becoming increasingly recognized as a very effective approach for countries' national development plans, and also for them to achieve their climate goals, both on the adaptation and the mitigation sides. Why on the mitigation side? Because the more circular you are, the less manufactured goods you produce, which means you produce less greenhouse gas emissions. And as far as adaptation, the more circular you are, the more efficient you are in your use of resources, and therefore you can adapt to the negative impacts of climate change. So circular economy is becoming increasingly recognized as a very effective tool to achieve climate goals, and a key step, or a key initial step, to create the enabling environment to allow countries to achieve their circular economy development goals is about developing national circular economy roadmaps. So Finland was the first country worldwide to design a circular economy roadmaps, and they've been very involved in the development of the African Circular Economy Alliance and in the founding of the facility. And relatedly, they have supported a number of African countries through the facility with the development of their roadmaps. And my colleagues from the African Development Bank will speak to it later, but the facility and the alliance are already in the process of supporting 5 African countries with their national circular economy roadmaps. But we would like to support many more countries. 5 is just a beginning. There's 54 countries on the continent, but in order for us to get there, we will need financial support. So hopefully we can see the facility grow. But the other side of the issue that we're discussing today is about how do we find ways to finance circular economy roadmaps more effectively, notably by leveraging climate finance. So we're here at the Africa Climate Week and Africa Climate Summit. A big part of the discussions are around how do we find more effective ways to scale up financing for the continent to address our climate change challenges. And we want to encourage those conversations to focus increasingly on how do we use climate finance to provide funding to support African countries with developing their circular economy roadmaps. So again, it's an honor and pleasure for me to be here today and to introduce this session. There will be 3 additional speakers. First, we'll have Elisa Lutonen and Margaret Kamau from the African Development Bank, who will discuss the significance of circular economy roadmaps, notably the opportunities of circular economy as a development strategy and the benefits of a coordinated multi-stakeholder approach to the country-level implementation of circular economy. And after Elisa and Margaret, we will have David Rubia from UNEP, more specifically from the UNEP Finance Initiative, who will speak to ways in which we can leverage climate finance opportunities to implement the national circular economy roadmaps in Africa. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll yield the floor to Elisa and Margaret.
Hello. Does this one work? Well, let me start with this one. Good morning, everybody, and happy to be here with you talking about circular economy this morning. And thank you, Bertrand, for the opening and for giving a summary what we're going to be talking about. I was first thinking about, if you put the next slide, to say a little bit more concretely what we mean at ASEF, and also what we look at ASEA when we talk about concrete circular economy projects and initiatives. So, for example, something that most countries are now looking at in Africa is waste management and how to integrate it, how to improve plastic waste collection, how to utilize organic waste, for example, for improvement of soil, and also e-waste recovery and reuse. Another very related area is the built environment. So how to create our environments such that it minimizes waste that we're creating and making the waste collection and management as efficient as possible. As you can see, also the other areas that really are related to this is regenerative agriculture and the food systems, especially for the collection of the organic waste and how that can be utilized. Why am I going through these kind of more concrete examples is that when we talk about circular economy, we often talk about it on a more general level. And when we talk about projects, they are often labeled something like this rather than circular economy. So I just wanted to give you all the mindset that when we talk about circular economy, the project might be called something like this. And thus also the financing opportunities, the things that you find on a circular economy roadmap, they might also be called something like this rather than circular economy projects as such. We often talk about also circular economy business models, which are somewhat more, you could say, integrated to other businesses, to structures, and that is why it's important that we look at this holistically and not just from one business or one sector perspective. So this was a long introduction to how we look at circular economy at ASEF, Africa Circular Economy Facility. And we really want to be there to build the case for circular economy in Africa. And you could say almost working together with the countries to define what circular economy should be and could be on the continent. And as Bertrand said, we do this with really in collaboration with the African Circular Economy Alliance. My colleague Margaret will be saying a couple of more words about that in a second. But here, just to recap, the support areas that we aim at concentrating to build the case for the circular economy. So we cannot only look at, for example, business and private sector support and startups. We also need to look at the policy environment and build the capacities and awareness of policymakers, not only in environment field, but also in trade, in finance, in agriculture, in infrastructure, to take the circular economy approach in their projects. So thus, these all three areas of support of ASEF. And indeed, as Bertrand said, we are really still in taking the early steps of the trust fund, and we started last year, and now we are in the first full year of activity, and we are aiming to mobilize more funding so that we can go beyond just the initial support and creating the case for circular economy. But I will now ask my colleague Margaret to step in for a couple of minutes to tell us a little bit more about ASEA. Thanks, Margaret.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our climate activation event. So, as mentioned by Elisa, my name is Margaret Kamau, and I work in the Climate Change and Green Growth Department at the African Development Bank. And I'm sure many of you are wondering, what is a development bank doing in circularity? What are we doing in waste management? And well, it may not be clear. I hope by the end of our event, you may have a bit of an idea of, some of the channels through which, as countries or as strategic partners, you may be able to engage with us as the bank. So, the African Circular Economy Alliance, or ASEA as we call it, was established in 2017 off the back of the Agenda 2063 of the AU and the SDGs that were developed in 2015, as well as the Paris Agreement. So it was realized that circular economy was starting to gain prominence across African countries, and therefore 3 countries came together to establish the ASEA. The 3 countries that signed, that started it off are Rwanda, South Africa, and Nigeria, and we call those our co-founders. So over the years, we've had a number of countries join. We've had Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Morocco, Senegal, Cameroon, and most recently, we've had Chad and Mauritius. Those are our 2023 babies who have joined ASEA. So, that may be important for some of you who are here, who represent those countries. You may be able to go back, speak with your ministries of environment, find out if you have an interest in circular economy, how you can engage with ASEA. We also have a number of strategic partners, and David, who will speak after me, will talk from the perspective of one strategic partner, that's UNEP. But also we have a number who support on knowledge management, research, the convening power. As we know, we cannot do these things without our partners. And then as Africa Development Bank, we realized that, in terms of supporting countries to achieve their NDCs, it will be interesting to note that 53 out of 54 countries in Africa mentioned circularity in their NDCs. That shows that for a lot of African countries, they realize what the potential could be for that. It was mentioned across different areas: waste management, resource efficient industries, climate smart agriculture, and green cities. So those are the areas where we hope to engage with countries. So as part of ASEA, before Elisa comes back to talk about the roadmaps work, I'd like to mention one project that we supported as the bank. In the very early days, just at the establishment of ASEA, we received financing to support the development of bankable investment cases. And we worked in 3 countries, Rwanda, Ethiopia, and Algeria, to engage with the governments to develop to work with them to identify areas where they thought circularity could be invested in. And it was interesting to see how this varies across different African countries. Of course, the context always matters, but we had investment cases that varied from looking at food systems to looking at the use of, for example, the black soldier fly to develop innovative fertilizers, to waste to energy projects. So what we realized from that project is that there is an investment case. And now Elisa will come and talk about the roadmaps. And we look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Hello again. So yeah, just to say a couple of words about the newest projects that we are now implementing together with 5 countries and African Circular Economy Alliance. So as part of the support to the national governments, this year we are starting a multi-country project to design national circular economy roadmaps with 5 countries. Chad, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Benin, and Uganda have been selected based on their expression of interest to join this project, and it will start now on the last quarter of this year. And why ASEF and African Circular Economy Alliance are supporting countries in creating these national circular economy roadmaps? As such, countries have many different roadmaps and many different development strategies, and so why to create also one on circular economy? The reason is that circular economy being a very cross-cutting issue, it is important to get all stakeholders to interact and understand circular economy and the opportunities that it can have, for example, for job creation, for industry diversification, and for development and reaching the SDGs, reaching the NDCs. That it is important that it is an inclusive process and that there are many stakeholders, all the required stakeholders in the same table. So you could even say that the process for creating such a roadmap is almost more important than the actual paper that comes out of the process. Also, another thing that is important about circular economy roadmaps is that it links to all these other development strategies. For example, for the long-term strategies to reach the NDCs and other long-term development strategies of the countries. And this is really important that the circular economy roadmap, we're not talking about a standalone document, but it really, the importance is on the links to other strategies. And one thing about why it is good to have this collective document that collects all the projects, as we said, that can have a very different name than circular economy under this one strategy. When you're going and mobilizing financing for projects, it is very good to have them all in one context and show how they all contribute and link to each other. So this kind of a circular economy roadmap can be a very useful tool for leveraging financing for implementation of the roadmap. And it shouldn't be that you invent projects, only upcoming projects. You should also link the existing projects on different sectors under that same roadmap. We are now calling soon David Rubia from our strategic partner UNEP to tell us a bit more about how to get these roadmaps financed. But also just to say that this is one of the projects that ASEF is supporting under the policy component. We're also having a lot of workshops and webinars together with ASEA, and we're supporting governments also outside of this 5-country project in sensitizing, creating awareness, sharing best practices about what circular economy could be and what kind of policies are needed in order to enable it on a national and also municipal levels. Thanks a lot from my side, and welcome David Rubia from UNEP.
Thanks, Elisa and Margaret and Bertrand. Is it morning? Good morning, everyone. So I was asked to speak about how we'll see to more innovative finance mechanisms for circularity, and I was now thinking about it because I was called in a bit last minute. The African Development Bank has asked UNEP to speak about financing mechanisms. I think there's a bit of the cart before the horse here. But very happy to be with you here today. I work for the United Nations Environment Programme in the Regional Office for Africa. I'm actually not in the UNEP Finance Initiative, but we do work collaboratively together with an initiative called Go for SDGs, Global Opportunities for Sustainable Development Goals. A lot has been said before me. I think that's one of the things about coming in last is you're trying to see what you could be able to add to the conversation. I think for me, the first thing I'll start with, and Bertrand, I think we were in Addis together in a panel at the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment. One of the things I think we need to say repeatedly when we're talking about circularity and circular economy is that it's not new to Africa. I think I'm going to maybe paraphrase what's been said in one of the panels we were in with the Minister of Environment for Ghana and the Director General for the National Environment Management Authority for Uganda, which is that circularity is how Africa was before we went down a different path of linear production models. And so because we'll talk about awareness raising for circular economy and helping people understand it, one of the things we need to always take a step back and say, you know what, we were circular before, and so a lot of our traditional values are circular, so we're really talking about that we already know. So I had an analogy, and I don't know if it's appropriate here, but if you think about how in traditional systems people went about, say, slaughtering, say a goat, for example, nothing was thrown away. Everything had its use. And if you were to use that approach, from the meat, from the bones, from the hide, the hooves, everything had a use case and nothing was completely thrown away. So when we're talking about circular economy, we're talking about designing out waste from our production models. That is, I think, for me, the simplest way of looking at it. Now, we have lots of, as UNEP, maybe just touching slightly on this, we have lots of interventions trying to see how we can advance circular economy. Lots of different initiatives. I mentioned UNEP FI, the UNEP Finance Initiative. That is a collaboration of banks and institutions in the finance space to try and see to responsible banking and insurance. You might have heard of the Switch Africa Green initiative, which has been helping advance green SMEs. It's been a big project for the last 4 or 5 years, actually even more. We have the initiative that I mentioned, Global Opportunities for Sustainable Development Goals. Might have heard of the Partnership for Action on the Green Economy, which is a very big collaborative partnership that's been advancing green economy in several countries. And I'll be remiss if I don't mention the 10-year framework for sustainable consumption production frameworks, 10YFP, which is now in its second sort of iteration. Now, that's sort of how we are engaging. Specific to innovative finance, I want to sort of mention or to just highlight a project we've had working with DALBAG, as well as, and this was funded by Go for SDGs, the African Circular Economy Alliance, and UNEP FI. This project, actually, this was done last year. We actually decided to talk to banks, commercial banks across Africa, and ask them how can we see to more advanced, how can we scale up in financing of circular economy? Because the work that Africa Circular Economy Alliance and the bank are doing, which is trying to develop the frameworks, is going to end up with fantastic pieces of paper. After that, there needs to be action on the ground. How do we help our industries and our businesses finance the shift? So this is the questions that we were asking of banks and also other stakeholders. And I think I'll touch on 3 things. They're all interconnected, and there's no most important, so don't follow what I'm saying in terms of order. But obviously, there's a need for policy, more. Let me not say policy. There's already policy work ongoing, there's roadmap setting, there's all that, but there's obviously a need to continue that, to make sure that we have the right frameworks in place. I'll give an example, and this again is not related to circular economy, and I could be wrong, so don't quote me, but I'm told that part of the reason that we see in Nigeria the huge growth in local musicians who are now winning Grammys is because there was actual policy setting and policy requirements for local content. So the government actually sat down and said, we need to put into place a minimum level of local content. And I think now in Nigeria, that's even been exceeded. I think you almost have to put a policy in place for foreign content now because of how well it's been. But when we're talking about policy, we need to actually put in place signals that we need to look at systems that design out waste and have minimum requirements for that. So that's what, when you say policy, we need that reinforced. The other thing that's come up, and I've mentioned it, is awareness raising. At least I like what you said, which is when we talk about circular economy, oftentimes people are like, what is that? One thing I've said is that it's something that was in our system, so we should know what it is. It's just the name that we're not familiar with. And the other thing is the projects, integrated waste management. There are things that we know, and then we're like, oh, I didn't realize that's circular economy. Okay, I get it now. So, but we need to continue helping people connect the dots on what circularity is. It's not just recycling, although that's an important part of circular economy. It's also looking at the life cycle of how we are manufacturing things. So there's policy, then there's awareness raising. And the other thing that we got feedback from, this is not us, from banks and from stakeholders, is there's need for highlighting the business case of circular economy. Okay, I want to give a short example of work we've done, and this is more within the resource efficiency space, but it's still encompassed here. Working together with time is, oh sorry, I'm going on forever. Sorry, I've been told to stop. Point is this, that if we bring together the finance experts, we bring together value chain owners and SMEs within value chains, we will be able to build bankable business cases for investing in circular economy. We've been able to do this in 2 big value chains in Kenya. And so the idea is that people, when they see the business case, they will be able to innovate how to be able to finance that. I think we also need to move more to commercial modes of financing because it needs to be sustainable within a business case. I'll stop there because I could go on forever, but thank you very much. I'll call back Bertrand. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, David. So unfortunately, we don't have much time, and apologies, David, for rushing you. But we're now going to move to questions. We probably only have time for 1 or 2 questions before Margaret does the closing. So any questions from the audience? Okay, we have 2 hands in the back. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Konstantin Edward. I'm from Tanzania, and also I'm running a company called AgriLife. So the company is dealing with black soldier fly farming. I was interested when a representative from the bank said about the black soldier fly farming as a project that they're supporting on a circular economy. So I have 2 questions. So one is that I didn't see Tanzania as a member of Africa Circular Economy Alliance. So I just want to know, is there a consideration for Tanzania to join as well? And when will that be? And the second question is for ASEA and ACF. How do you help young innovators that are working on a circular economy business? And do you work with them as individual or as a group? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's take the question and then we'll answer them both.
Thanks a lot for the discussions. I'm Kruti, I work at the GIZ supporting a cities project. Curious about whether the ACF or ASEAN have considered cities and the role of subnational governments in this kind of discussion, because of course the national level is critical for setting frameworks and enabling environment, but then it's really, implementation is really at the subnational level, where also there is a huge financing gap. So I'm curious how cities feature in this discussion, if they're considered, and in what manner. Thanks.
Thank you. So maybe I'll start with the first question, and then I'll let Elisa and Margaret answer the next 2. So as we said earlier, the Alliance is a government-led coalition. And the way it works is that countries need to join on their own. But at the same time, the Alliance has invited all African countries, really, to join. As we said earlier, the first 3 countries to actually found the Alliance were South Africa, Nigeria, and Rwanda. And thereafter, we have had conversations with different countries, notably through the African Union, to encourage them to join. And one of the key platforms we've used is AMCEN, which David mentioned earlier, so the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment. So we've tried as much as we could to formally invite countries to join, but we are looking for partners and other stakeholders who would like to see their country join the alliance work with us to facilitate that process. So it's not an automatic process. As much as we'd like to see as many countries join, we also need to see interest from them in a formal sense from their actual ministries of environment. But if you yourself, or if people in your network would like to see Tanzania join the alliance, we're happy to work with you to make that happen. Yeah. Elisa, do you want to take the next question? Mm-hmm.
Hello. So yeah, first of all, regarding the support to the private sector and to startups. So in addition to the multi-country project on national circular economy roadmaps, we're also starting this year a project with startup hubs. We have not yet identified partners, but there will be an expression of interest coming out towards the Q4 of this year. So we're looking at hub networks that are active in multiple countries in Africa and that would like to take up circular economy as one of their offerings. So please don't hesitate to be in touch with us if you're interested. We will be keeping you up to date also through the ASEA website, so that's also always a good source. Regarding the municipal collaboration, that is definitely one of the relationships and one of the you could say levels or dimensions of the stakeholder engagement that needs to be included in all of the national circular economy roadmaps, because as you say, it is really the municipal level where the actions are implemented. We're already collaborating with some projects that are on the municipal level, on both scoping and on implementation, and also ICLEI Africa is one of the partners with whom we've been collaborating under ASEF and ASEA, especially in the context of World Circular Economy forums. So that's on my side. I let Margaret to do her closing remarks. Thanks.
Thank you, Elisa. So just realizing we're over time, very brief closing remarks. We hope that you take away from this session a better understanding of how different entities are working together to finance circularity on the continent. So from the speakers we've had from the Africa Circular Economy Facility, how they are financing roadmaps in countries, the Africa Circular Economy Alliance, how we are engaging with governments, national governments, and how the bank has also supported various entities or business cases to identify the investment case for circularity. In closing, I'd also like to highlight a few initiatives. So within the bank, we have some climate funds, the Africa Climate Change Fund, the Green Environment Facility, which have also supported elements of circularity. And from UNEP as well, we have the Switch Africa Green and Green Jobs for Youth Pact, which AFDB should be joining soon. So thank you for joining our session.